So this video is to show you what I've done for the for cleaning my valves in this 3.6 liter GM motor. It's in a Chevy Traverse 2009. These motors seem to have a bad carbon buildup issue on the back of the valves. And in my searching, I didn't find much on anyone doing this procedure on this particular engine. I did see a lot in the BMW forums, which is where I got the idea for what I've done. So what I've done is bought a media blaster from Harbor Freight and a case of walnut shells, and I am in the middle of walnut blasting the valves. It ended up being a little more I don't want to say difficult, but there's a lot more carbon buildup on there than what the first glance I thought was on there. So I saw some on the shafts, the valves, things like that. But as I started digging deeper, started noticing that there was a full ring all the way around the valve seat, which took a lot to get off. So this is the media blaster. You can see it's got the walnut shells in it, so it feeds up through this black tube to this gun. I've put a piece of plastic tubing on it to extend it down to the valves. I know on some of the other videos I've seen for different motors, they use a metal pipe on the end of that, but I didn't want to do that. The walnut shells don't seem to chew the plastic up too bad, but if you were using for a different project, maybe you're using glass beads or something, it would chew that up. But I also ended up using pieces of that to create other hand tools to get in there and try to break some of the bigger deposits loose, which seemed to work pretty well. I also used some of the CRC valve cleaner to spray in there and let it soak for 20 or 30 minutes, and then go back in and blast it and try to chip it loose again with these tools. Obviously making sure when I get done that everything's nice and clean in there. You don't want to leave many walnut shells down in there. Now, if you do decide to do this procedure, you want to make sure the first thing you want to do is check and see which cylinder has a valve open. I've found that this one here was the one that was open, so I've covered that one completely throughout the procedure. I've gone through and got the other 5 valves. Then I'll go and I'll bump the starter to spin it and close the valves on that one, have the other ones closed, and then go back and clean that one to get it ready to go. So I'll check back in once I've got everything put back together. But like I said, I didn't see anything specific on this engine. I know this engine is used in several other of their GM vehicles, and the majority of the carbon buildup issue, I think, goes back to the badly designed PCV system, which back here is, if you can see it, I'm not going to be able to get a good shot of it. There it is. That regulator, that port into that valve cover has a couple of holes in it, which regulates the amount of vacuum that pulls through the engine. Those holes are undersized in the early years. In later years, they made the holes larger. What I've done, I've drilled those out, as some other people have posted, with proper dimensions for the updated port, which seems to have fixed the sludge problem in the intake tube, but I do think it still pulls some oil in. I did have a catch can at one point. I don't know if I'm gonna put that back in when I get done with this procedure. The car's got 98,000 miles on it, so the hope is that this can last another 98,000 miles before this needs to be done again. It's obviously, you can see it's pretty messy. There's walnut shells everywhere, but I'll finish up these last couple of valves, and I'll check back in once I get her back running. So I wanted to do a follow-up real quick. So I got the car all back together, took it out for a test drive. Everything worked good. I was actually pretty surprised by how much more power the car had after doing this valve cleaning. So when I started digging into it, I almost thought to, not proceed with it. Just had some other things going on, but seems like I said, it seems like the car's got a lot more power, which is surprising. But some of those valves were extremely caked. Cylinder 6 was probably the worst, and on the front bank, those are very difficult to see with your own eyes. So I had to use partially lay down in the engine bay to see down in there, use my camera, a couple different ways to try to get eyes on it. But number 6 was the worst. But just wanted to go through kind of real quick what I used in order to do what I did. So first, got the media blaster from Harbor Freight hooked up to my air compressor. Used the walnut pieces, blasting medium. But I was also surprised that that didn't quite do it. So I would have to do several series of blasting, squirting the CRC on it, using bottle brushes, a screwdriver that I used a grinder in order to sharpen, to be able to chip some of the real heavy deposits off. Some of these plastic pieces that I used as well to chip it. Obviously, you want to be careful not to score anything. I mean, this tool here you have to use this very delicately to not cause damage. The painter's tape to cover up all the cylinder heads that aren't being used. I made sure to very completely cover the one cylinder that had the valves open. I then rotated the motor in order to close that one. That was the last one that I did. So again, just wanted to, for anyone out there that's wanting to try this, this is the setup that I use. And again, I was very surprised of how much more power the car had. One other thing you'll need is a shop vac, and I also used a piece of PVC here. Towards the end, I didn't even end up using this. I would or the hole that I drilled in it, because there's enough vacuum coming out of this that I could just hold it off to the side and shoot the gun down and underneath here, and it caught most of it. But as long as you got the other cylinders closed off, if you get some of that blast media out there, it's not going to cause any problems. So again, just wanted to follow up. It seems like it was I'd say 4 hours roughly well spent. The actual process of cleaning the valves themselves, like I said, I thought it would be 5 or 10 minutes of blasting and it would clean it up, but the deposits were extremely thick and hard, so they didn't come off very easily with just the blaster, so I had to use other mechanical means to do it. So that's it. Thanks.